According to Maria Montessori, who was a very prominent scientist in early childhood development, writing should precede reading. Do you agree or not? If you want to find out, watch this video till the end. The core idea of Montessori is when it comes to reading is that it should never be forced on to children. Interest in writing, according to Maria Montessori, emerges naturally, and that's what we have to hope for and wait for. If you remember Montessori approach, she was talking about critical periods in child's development, and we have to wait for this desire to scribble, write, copy you to emerge. The core idea of Montessori is that children should never be pushed to read or write. We need to wait for the natural emergence of this desire because children go through so called sensitive periods in development when they are open up to learning this new skill. You probably will notice it with children when they will grab a pen, a texter, and start copying you as a parent or as an educator. Usually, this stage starts about the age of 3 to 5, so it depends on the child. But it is definitely something that we need to wait, according to Montessori. We need to wait for the interest to rise before we can start teaching them more intentionally. Maria Montessori was a scientist. So she developed a lot of resources that she engineered herself, and they are focusing entirely on literacy, such as vocabulary cards, metal inserts, sandpaper letters, trays with semolina, chalkboards, movable alphabet that I will show you in this video, and some other reading materials that she called Pink Series. In no way, shape, or form, I am a specialist in Montessori. That's why, if anyone who is watching is a Montessori trained teacher, we would like more insights in this method. What I'm sharing is an opinion of a parent who attended Montessori class with my son, and also a tutor who used to teach reading for 17 years and used elements of Montessori approach to teaching reading and supporting emergent writing. The key principle of Montessori is that writing precedes reading. Oh, really? How is it possible? Why? Why? Reading, according to Montessori, is more abstract. It involves interpreting symbols and making meaning. So, for example, if I will write and like a word here that many children will read by this stage when they are in the prep, cat, what you have to interpret is that this is a sound k, this is yes, so and this is cat. So Montessori knew that you are turning symbols into sounds. And according to her, this kind of decoding requires a lot of development. And that's where I agree with Maria Montessori. I do write with children using special cubes when I'm teaching them native language, Russian, and when I'm teaching them to read and write in English, more like supporting the emergent literacy, because I work with preschoolers, I model writing a lot before I push them to read the words independently. Like Maria Montessori, I believe that language should be developed first, and this happens through our small muscles, fine motor skills, our fingers and muscles in our wrist and our hand. So we are sensory beings. That's why Maria Montessori believed that a lot of things should be done to support the sensorial development of the child. You can do it through special finger games, action songs that I have plenty on Storykate. When children begin to write, they start with tracing shapes. They start with feeling the texture of sandpaper like letters. They play with sensory materials and trays, and they are forming words using movable alphabet. And all these actions that are part of Montessori system involve their fine motor skills. According to Maria Montessori, writing appears more spontaneously and it's complex as reading, but it is easier to support because children are interested in writing. One of the most important concepts in Montessori approach to teaching to read and write is how letters are introduced. And that's what I covered a little bit already. So the letters are introduced as sounds, not as letters. She is not covering C-A-T because when you read C-A-T, no one can figure out that it's a cat. So Montessori was an intelligent woman and she realized that we need to develop phonemic awareness to teach children sounds. For example, she will say k, cat, a, t, cat. And she will teach for mama, right? And instead of saying m, I will write it down. M, m. She wouldn't say m, she would say m. And as for p, yeah, so it would be p, p. For example, pear. So when you read books, you can focus on the initial sounds of the common words or sight words or words that are familiar to children. And this way you will be introducing Montessori system into your teaching. In Maria Montessori approach, the vowels come first, and as you can see, they are different in colors. And the consonants come next, because according to Montessori, it is easier to remember. As a tutor who teaches children to read, I also use vowels first. For example, in Russian, it's u, o, a, u, you, yo, ya, ye, ye. And then I move to the sounds that are consonant sounds. But first, vowels are very important. That's part of the system. Pre-writing in Montessori approach is mechanical. So in other words, children do not really build words from sounds, but often thinking about without thinking about their meaning. So they are copying what they are writing, and I do apply this method when I have whiteboards for scribbling where I can model child their name, for example, Claire, yeah, and they can start copying Claire underneath, or they can even trace it. They don't understand the word behind the name, but they are copying sight words or letters. They copying, right? So, and that's also a Montessori approach. This process is emergent writing, like scribbling. It builds the foundation for future reading. Montessori considered this process stage like word building, mechanical decoding, and then finally reading with comprehension. She appreciated how complex reading is, and it takes time to build the foundation and then all the other layers. So what we are looking at is movable alphabet. This is how children will write first. Yes, so they are going to use these letters to write their first words with letters. And that's what you will see as writing precedes reading. What do you think about it? Post in the comments below. Meanwhile, Julie Fausick, a respected Montessori educator in Russia, argued that the slow pace in using the movable alphabet gives children time to think. Children can spend 20 minutes to 40 minutes to build one word, and they can read this word. So it could be an easy one like cat or mat or dog. And reading the same word aloud several times helps to move from decoding to understanding. So this is an example of movable alphabet in Russian. So you can actually find Montessori materials that are adopted or adapted for your particular language, which is quite interesting. As you can see, the vowels are red and the consonants are blue. Very important part of Montessori approach. Although two languages are very different, the principles stay the same. I think it's a really good investment in education resources. I'm surprised I haven't seen a lot of them in early childhood education settings, in play based settings, because there is no harm in it, but maybe because it's not introduced in a proper way and educators are not trained. What I really liked about Montessori materials, and I have this one, I bought it for $50. It's called sandpaper letters. You can make them yourself, and I put them in the preschool room because I think they are fabulous. So basically, they are all letters of ABC, and children can trace them, as you can see on this picture, and this way they work through the senses and they start to recognize the shapes of the letters. Another thing that I adopted as a teacher is writing in sand. These are quite common teaching tools that you can find in early childhood education and care. And writing with beautiful stick like this in sand or your finger also train your small muscles and prepare them for writing. We always start with big muscles first, then we move to the smaller muscles and then smaller movements. So that's why in every room I have a texter that even babies can hold and whiteboards where they can scribble like this. Yeah, I know it's kind of not Montessori approach, but the principles are the same. Maria Montessori focused a lot on preparing the hands for writing. And this is something I agree with her absolutely. And I'm sure all the physiotherapists, all the occupational therapists and speech pathologists would agree with her as well. So these are inserts. So you are using them with pencils, not pens, and children actually first insert them in and find the shapes, and then eventually they move on to tracing. They learn not only geometrical shapes, and that expands their language, but they do learn how to trace. And this works on steadiness of the hand. This is a picture from my old class. As you can see, I changed a lot. That's me with a short haircut, size 6. But the principle stays the same. You see, children have the cards where they can see written words. And when they read them, they are actually writing because we use cubes to write them. I also use a lot of games for development of language, and I'm gonna tell you about some of them. You can adopt them immediately. Remember the idea of the beginning sound, for example, cat, right? Or cow, or pear, or mummy. So I use it, my eyes spies, and I use a special a bag where I put different toys. I will make a special video on that. And I say my I spice something that starts with and that's could be snake. Yeah, they might say dog, elephant, cat, but it's not. It's snake. And this way, we also match the word, the object, the symbol, and the sound. Then you can say, I spy with my little eye something that starts with k, and that could be key, could be cow. In one Montessori classroom that I worked, they had a beautiful tinker box, a tray that had some compartments, and they had compartments from A to Z, and objects that represent these sounds. For example, cow would be in that special compartment. So this focuses on phonemic awareness, recognizing and manipulating individual sounds, and it's central to Montessori approach to reading process. In my view, Montessori approach is a complete system, and a lot of children who attended kindergartens, Montessori first cycle and the second cycle from 3 to 6, that's the second cycle, they learn to read and write before starting school. The materials are well developed, they're still absolutely valuable and current, but the most important thing that they are backed up by your foundation in developing children vocabulary and language. Remember outcome 5, communication. So if you look at this picture that I shared, these are the cubes that I used to teach my bilingual son to read at the age of not 1, as you can see on the picture, and not 2, but at the age of 4. Yet the foundation before that happened involved a lot of storytelling, a lot of finger plays, a lot of action songs, a lot of discussions. So he was silent until 2.5. As many boys are a little bit behind in language development. He was nonverbal. And then eventually, when he started talking, he started to speak in long sentences. It's a lot of work involved in language development. Language development is one of the most complex things that happen during childhood, and brain is largely involved, but also our mouth is involved and as biological organs, and we have a lot of muscles that are involved in this process. So lay the foundation, said Montessori, and you will be fine. When children become more advanced in decoding, yeah, writing to read, so turning the symbols into sounds, yeah, I introduce other more complex games such as antonyms, synonyms. I ask them to classify, to sort. So you are looking at someone who is 8, and he is reading the countries and flags, and they also finding describing what he knows about each country. This is a lot to do with also Montessori approach that children need to know about the world. So, as an educator, you definitely can introduce sandpaper letters, movable alphabet, sound games, and other Montessori practices into your play based classroom as part of your intentional teaching and group learning. What you can do as a parent as well is to create environment that promotes emergent writing skills. Write a lot with your child. Turn those sounds into turn those letters into sounds, right? So, and this will lay the foundation for future learning. Write yourself a lot, model it to your child, focus on the initial sounds that they come across. For example, dog, right? And bird. Make it very clear, and you will follow the Montessori approach. Any comments about this video, please ask any questions, add your impressions, add information about your experience. I'm looking forward to continuing our discussions. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.